At this point, we have seen almost a full year of interest rate hikes, dwindling home sales numbers across the country, and a falling stock market. And just this past Wednesday, on February 1st, 2023, the Federal Reserve did another rate hike of 25 basis points. This has a lot of us thinking the same thing. Are there going to be more rate hikes? Are interest rates going to go up further? Is all of this going to bring the home prices down? So in today's video, I'm going to talk about the current housing market, the future Federal Reserve policies, and the overall economic health of the economy, and then talk about how all these things will impact the housing market in the coming months. So you definitely want to stay tuned. So the Federal Reserve just did a rate hike this last Wednesday. The day I'm shooting this is February 3rd. The hike was about 2 days ago. So let's look at on the board where the rates are right now. So today's average rate is around 5.979, depending on the scenario, what kind of loan you're getting. It might be a tad bit lower or a tad bit higher, but let's just average it around 6% are today's rates. Now, a lot of you are probably wondering, well, if you watched my last video or the video previous, the rates were still sitting at the same amount. So you're thinking like, well, what's happening to the rates? Why haven't they gone up? So the Federal Reserve did a rate hike. What they did is they raised the federal funds rate, which is the rate at which banks borrow money from each other. Now that necessarily does not mean that's going to be directly proportionate to the interest rates that you buyers or borrowers are going to get. A lot of lenders have already worked in this in their margins because they know that the interest rates are going to go up. They have information on that. Large lenders across the country have already put that into their margins. They're actually going to adjust their margins and adjust their commissions to a point where they can deliver more of an affordable rate to the buyer so they can continue to have business, because if they keep adding on to their interest rate and keep adding these changes on their rate, then the rate over here may even be touching 7.5%, which will be really bad for the housing market. And it will really further slow down the applications of mortgages. So lenders have already adjusted their margins. That's why you're seeing the rates kind of not really change. And the Federal Reserve didn't do a crazy hike, but it's still a 25 basis points hike. So we have rates at 6%, and which is almost double at where they were in, say, January of 2022. We're sitting around 3.5%. Now that's made people's mortgage payments skyrocket almost like 50% to 60% higher than where the payments were last year, which has put a lot of people just outright out of the market. Number 3, home sales across the country are down. That's directly because of the rates being up and just an overall slower economy, with people just having less money in their wallets, with their stock values dropping by 40 to 50%, less money down to buy a home, a lot of uncertainty in the market. A lot of people just are purposely sidelining themselves, and also a lot of people are sidelined because they just can't afford. So home sales numbers across the country, 30 to 40% down. Like I've mentioned this in my other videos over and over again, real estate is very localized. So your local city or your local area may be different than the national numbers, but on an average 30 to 40% decline in home sales throughout the country. Now, the next thing that I had mentioned I was going to talk about is going to be the future policies of the Federal Reserve. Now, no one exactly knows what they're going to do. A lot of it is going to depend on where inflation goes and how those numbers look. But for the most part, a lot of economists are predicting that the rates this year are not going to come down. And if you've listened to the Federal Reserve's chairman, he clearly states that he's determined to bring inflation down. Now, so rates won't come down. They may do another hike in the coming months. Again, the banks may adjust to that, and you may see rates sit around the same number you're looking at there, and that this trend may continue to the mid-months or the end of the year. Their target inflation is 2%. They say this over and over again, but there are a lot of different factors in play here. If, say, inflation continues to decline slowly, or say if inflation, if the housing market is hit hard and the Federal Reserve sees that further increasing the interest rate may impact the overall economy's health negatively, and it may cause some other things to happen and make things worse, they may really slow down and not do any more hikes. That's also a possibility, but that is their target. They're aggressively focused on the 2%. So again, this is going to lead down to my third point here, that the Federal Reserve may slow down their rate hikes in the next coming months, or just completely stop and not do any more rate hikes, just to see and let the market kind of adjust to itself. If you want to know more information about how the Federal Reserve works and what they do to bring down inflation, check out my video above where I talk about how the Federal Reserve functions. And their primary function is to control the cash flow and the money in the market. So that's what they're doing right now. They're really trying to slow down the cash flow in the economy so we can bring the prices of goods down and bring down inflation. Now, the next meeting for the Federal Reserve is going to be in March 2023. So it's going to be really, really interesting to see where the rates and the Fed's rates are going to be in that month. But a lot of economists are predicting that they may do another 25 basis point hike. A lot of folks are not expecting them to do anything higher than that. But it's going to be very interesting to see what happens. Thank you for having confidence in my content. If you're getting real value out of this video, please hit the like button, because more people out there need this video, and you hitting the like button is going to get this video in front of those people. And if you like what you saw here and you want more videos like this, please hit the subscribe button to stay on top of your real estate game. I love you all. Now let's move forward on the board and look at the overall health of the economy. So we're looking at macroeconomics here, talking about the general factors that impact the overall national economy. We're not going on a micro level. We're not looking on industry specific. We're looking at general numbers here. So inflation right now is trending downward. It's at 6.5%. It was around 9% in the summer months of 2022, which is great progress for us as a country. And that's a big factor why the Federal Reserve is easing off a little bit on the rate hikes. And there's a lot of factors that go into that, and we know they're, like I just mentioned earlier, their main thing is they want to slow down cash flow, slow down just having people having less money in their wallets. Having high interest rates also means that people are not able to borrow as much, so less liquidity in the market, people buying less goods, companies' revenues come down, and what you see, inflation coming down. Hopefully, we're hoping for prices of goods to come down too. It's not happening at a drastic level as we want it to. We're not really seeing it, and we're not really impacting it. If you're out in the market, you know, things are still expensive, but we're hoping this continues to trend downwards and things get to a more level playing field. And number two, a lot of tech companies are laying off people right now. A lot of employees are getting laid off. I'm in the Bay Area here. A lot of companies here locally in the Bay Area are laying off employees. Here are some numbers for you on the board for large companies in the areas throughout the country that are laying employees off, and these numbers are for the end of January 2023. Amazon, 18,000, Google, 12,000, IBM, 3,900, Microsoft, 10,000, PayPal, 2,000, Salesforce, 8,000. Now, these companies may have already sent out the notices and already laid off employees, and some of these companies have just released information and might be in the process of laying people off in February. But this is for the end of January 23. Now let's look at this article by Engadget and see what CEOs of companies are saying about these layoffs. So you see here, CEO of Google, Sundar Pichai, says, wasn't shy about the reasoning. Alphabet had been hiring for a different economic reality. And CEO of Amazon, Andy Jassy, blamed both an uncertain economy and rapid hiring in recent years. So that's very refreshing to hear these statements from CEOs of these large companies, that these layoffs that we're seeing, or we've seen even in the later part of last year, 2022, that these layoffs are happening because they're just cutting out and taking out excess fat because of all the rapid hiring that they had done during the boom. So it kind of gives us, gives me a good feeling that it's not random layoffs that are happening that's being caused possibly by some other factors, maybe a slowing down of production, or, well, the economy is slowing down, and we see that with inflation, but we've seen rapid growth in the last 2 or 3 years. So if the economy is sort of coming to an equilibrium or coming to more of a baseline, or maybe where it was prior to pandemic, then that is a much better way of looking at it. Is a much better way of this going that direction. It's the soft landing that I've been talking about in my previous videos. Is we're not going to have a crazy landing if the economy was just were to go into shits. So it's very refreshing to hear that from CEOs. Okay, moving forward, number 3, there is less cash in people's wallets right now. No stimulus money coming in. Stock values are significantly lower than where they were before. A lot of people that were working for these tech companies had all these RSUs, and those have significantly dropped. So that being caused, a lot of people are just not out in the market looking for things to buy. Number 4, unemployment is still pretty low. It's 3.4%. And it's, even though we're seeing these tech layoffs, but because they're companies just shedding off, they're leaning down. A lot of folks that I've spoken to here in the Bay Area that are working in the tech industry are saying that yes, the layoffs are happening, but people are able to find replacement jobs. Now, every scenario, every person is going to be different, and depending on where you are in the country, it's going to be different. But a lot of people are saying, though, employees that work for tech companies are saying that they're asking for most people to come into work. A lot of companies are doing that to put a lot of pressure on employees to increase productivity because revenue is down and they're really being challenged. Employees are really being challenged just because companies are being challenged with where the numbers are in the economy. So people and employees are being asked to come in to work. They're asked to put in more hours, and there's just this environment around the area, especially in this tech area, in this tech industry, where gotta go to work, gotta work hard, gotta push, because you never know, I may be next on that layoff list. So that's definitely happening across the country as well. So companies just demanding more productivity. But overall, low unemployment. Okay? Now moving forward, which is a question that a lot of us have, a lot of my clients ask me, well, when are prices going to drop? And we've seen interest rates come down for almost a year here, but prices haven't dropped. Now, sales numbers have come down significantly, but prices have not really dropped on a national level. And the main reason, number 1, is that home values traditionally move very slowly in the real estate industry. They're not as volatile as the stock market. Now, we did see prices go crazy in the last 2 years or 2.5 years, and that was because of synthetic reasons. When I say synthetic, unhealthy reasons, where money was just flushed into the economy, everything was just booming, it was unnatural, and that's why we saw a spike of home prices going up. Traditionally or normally, we usually have seen on an average in the last, like, say, 50 years, an appreciation year over year of about 4.5 to 5%. And in the last couple of years, we saw crazy appreciation. So prices went up real high. And I'm going to go to my second point now, where sellers are expecting to be selling their homes at that same level where, say, their neighbors sold their home last year or the year prior. So sellers are holding strong. And another reason why they're holding strong is because even though all this is happening, there's still demand in the market. Now, again, real estate's very localized, but inventory is fairly moving. It's moving on a longer, it's taking longer. The days on market are definitely longer, but sellers are able to sell their properties. So that is still giving them a reason. Okay, well, it's not selling in 30 days or 24 days that it was before, but it's going to sell in, say, 45, 50 days, but properties are still selling. So sellers are holding on to prices. Now, price negotiations are still happening, but on a large scale, prices are still holding strong. Now, it's going to be very interesting to see what happens. Rates have been sitting at 6% for almost, I would say, like 4 to 5 months now. So if other things start to happen, that may change. But my overall perception and my thought here is that prices may hang strong this year. Now, I'm going to move forward to X factors here that I talked about in my other video to bring that up again today, that you really never know what's going to happen. That's what we've all known in the last couple of years, or we've known that anything is possible. So X factors here, one is mass layoffs. Now, we're seeing companies cut out fat, right? But say if there's a serious problem in the economy, some other factors come into play, and we see mass layoffs happening, which lead to people not being able to find jobs. Say if there's one income earner in the house, and this person has bought a house in the last couple of years, and now they can't make the payment, and they're not able to get another job. Now they have to foreclose the home. So if that happens on a mass level, that may put downward pressure, serious downward pressure on home prices coming down. But we're not really seeing signs of that right now, with unemployment being where it's at and companies just cutting off fat. So that can be an X factor here. Number two, inflation goes up further. Say now we're at 6.5, it goes to 7% or 8%, and then Federal Reserve is just forced to keep raising the Federal Reserve rate, and now instead of being at 6%, we're at 8%, 9%, and the market just completely comes to a halt, and there's no inventory moving, and people are really suffering because the housing market is hit hard, and that can also put a lot of downward pressure on sellers to bring the prices down. Number three, we already have trade wars going on all over the place, especially with us, the United States, Russia, and China. China is a huge exporter of goods, and we import goods from China, and it's a big part of the U.S. economy. And if, say, something else happens, or we're in a lockdown, that can have a really negative impact on a mass level, because we have to produce goods now in this country. The cost of goods are going to go up, and inflation is already high. If that impacts the numbers, it makes inflation go up. Now we have hyperinflation. The overall economy is hurt by that. It can go into devaluation of our currency. Now, I don't want to get into that, but that pretty much means the U.S. stock goes down, where people's perception of our country is that, we're not doing well. So now our dollar is buying less. That can create a whole different set of factors here. So these are some of the X factors here. My goal here is not to scare anybody here, because there's no signs of these two things that I'm talking about here, but these are X factors that are out there with things that are happening. Now, my suggestion to everybody is to, like always, to run your numbers, know what your rents are in your area, look and talk to a mortgage professional, a loan officer, an agent locally, and find out how much home you can afford and what that number looks like compared to rents. And the main thing is, can you afford that payment? Do you have at least 3 to 4 months of principal, interest, taxes, and your payment saved, where you have reserves in the bank? And those are the questions you want to ask yourself. And it is a time right now to save, and cut cost, and really see if you can bring in possibly a second income or other income streams to bring more money in. So if an opportunity does arise, you're not overstressing. You have the ability to buy. Now, if the numbers work for you, and you have to look at this on a 10-year, 15-year, a long-term horizon goal here when you're buying shelter, when you're buying home, because that's what it is here. That's all I have for today. Until next time, this is Karan Singh.